来趟的。
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another round of the Middle of the Pack Racing League Radical Eurotrip Championship for 2023, as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. Today marks round 2 of 12 in this series, which sees our drivers take on multiple European circuits, some of the finest out on the European continent, and as they race around each one in the British engineered Radical SR8 VA-powered mid-engine rear-wheel drive sports car machine, the stakes could not be higher. We saw in the season opener, a thrilling opener indeed at the Spa-Francorchamps circuit, and today we remain in Belgium but make our way to Circuit Zolder, everybody's second favourite Belgian circuit, and perhaps the one that's lesser known but should be more respected given the fact that this circuit presents its own challenges. With a number of short straights, sweeping corners and numerous very tight and close-knit chicanes, it is a circuit like no other when it comes to emphasising track position being key, and therefore qualifying state is going to be the mainstay of today's racing. However, as we get ready to go racing today, we welcome you all to this post-round broadcast for your viewing pleasure, and indeed it's been brought to you live via two media platforms. And firstly, we're bringing it to you live via the official YouTube channel. Indeed, if you go to youtube.com and search for TX141TX or Paul Walsh, you can tune in there, and welcome to you on YouTube. Alternatively, if you're more of a Twitch user, you can be tuning in via twitch.tv/TX141, and welcome to you there. Now, who is TX141 or Paul Walsh, you may be asking at this point? Well, allow me to introduce myself. My name's Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Brit of the Spit, depending on what media you follow me on, and I'll be your host and commentator for the entirety of this series. And as we charge away into round number 2, just a little bit of housekeeping. When we do say that this is a live broadcast, or a post-round broadcast as well, what it means is this broadcast is currently live as we're speaking to you. However, the race actually itself is not live. It occurred earlier this week on what was at the time of asking Wednesday, the 13th of September 2023. We're bringing it to you as if it were live this Saturday, the 16th of September. So therefore, as your host and commentator, I do not know what happens in any of the sessions that you're seeing today, whether it be the practice session that's currently ongoing, the qualifying session that's upcoming, or alternatively the race itself, and therefore it's going to be raw and brand new to me and as close as possible to the raw live experience for you guys and girls tuning in at home. And we're speaking of our schedule for today, times in British Summer Time, that's BST, or Universal Coordinated Time +1, UTC +1. As we can see, in just under 12 minutes time, we're going into our qualifying session, 15 minutes in duration, as split into two equal halves for our respective classes of drivers, after which we'll be making our way to the grid for our 30-minute sprint race, and that'll be at 5:30 this afternoon. And well, how will our drivers get on there? We've got a way to go to find out. But as we get ready to find out, let's give you an update on how they all performed after round number 1 by taking a look at the championship standings. But before we jump to that, let's just give you a quick reminder of the season schedule and what we've still got lying in wait. For as we can see, we start off round number 1 last time out on the 6th of September at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. It was filled with thrilling battles, where it being the Pro, the Prime or the Am class, with the Pro class being a bit more of a straightforward battle, which saw James Logsdon come out on top. Meanwhile, in the Prime class, it was Rockefeller Racing who absolutely dominated the front of their field. And in the Am class, where it was completely unpredictable, we saw the lead in the Am class change hands 7 times over the course of the 30-minute race at Spa-Francorchamps, albeit with a safety car also thrown into the mix that did deprive us of approximately 10 minutes of racing, but at the same time we got back and ready to go racing. It was a sprint to the finish. And today it's the Circuit Zolder, and indeed, what can we expect here today, given the fact it's a relatively narrow circuit, and we may see a safety car appear after the open lap, but we'll have to wait and see. After today, for round number 3, we'll make our way to United Kingdom for the last 2 rounds of the Northern Cup, and we'll start up at Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit on the 20th of September. Indeed, a circuit very close to my personal home. It's just up the road for me, ladies and gentlemen, so therefore it's a round that I'm definitely looking forward to, and I can assure you you're going to be looking forward to as well, because there's nothing quite like looking at lightweight sports cars race their way around the Brands Hatch circuit. And then we'll make our way for round number 4 to the Silverstone circuit, the feature race round on the 27th of September, and that's going to be an absolute thriller there as well, given the fact it'll be close-knit racing from start to finish there at Silverstone. And also with the feature race round, we have a slightly different format and something to be aware of as we go into the conclusion of the Northern Cup. After our first 4 rounds, we have our mid-season break before we return on the 11th of October for the kick-off of the Central Cup. And that'll begin in Austria at the Red Bull Ring, and will there name a circuit that's not more synonymous with straight line speed and heavy braking, I dare you, and the Red Bull Ring being just that. And then round number 6 will make our way to neighbouring Hungary for the Hungaroring, aptly named. On the 18th of October there, our drivers will need to take on another circuit that definitely is one that emphasises track position, albeit it can be a very tricky circuit to overtake it at the best of times, given the fact the circuit does have a very slippery surface. Round number 7 will see our drivers then make their way to Germany for the Hockenheim Ring at Baden-Württemberg circuit on the 25th of October, and that'll be in the final sprint of the Central Cup before they wrap up the Central Cup with the feature race round at the Circuit de 24 du Mans, also known and loved as Le Mans, in round number 8 of 12 on the 1st of November. And then we take another mid-season break before returning for the commencement of the Southern Cup, our final cup of the season, and it all begins with round number 9 at the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya in Spain, kicking off a Spanish triple header with the first of 3 sprints on the 15th of November. Then we'll make our way to Motorland Aragon for round number 10 on the 22nd of November, and then the final one of the Spanish triple header will be round number 11, our final sprint race round of the Cup and the season at the Circuito de Jerez. And fast flying and sweeping corners is the name of the game at Jerez, and therefore it's going to be momentum-based racing on the 29th of November before we bring it all to a close with round 12 of 12 at the Imola circuit on what is the 6th of December, and a feature race with that as well. And I can tell you one thing, the fact we'll wrap it up at Imola is definitely a fantastic place to end the championship on, for the simple reason Imola has everything you could ask for. Long straights, heavy braking zones, sweeping corners, you name it, it's got it, and that'll be the best place to wrap things up for the Southern Cup as well as the overall championship. But then we come on to give you the reminder then of how the championship looks after one round. And we start with the Pro Drivers' Championship, and as we can see, James Logsdon has taken the early lead. He was chased hard by Jordan Butler and Francois Shink in the race at Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. However, it looked as though in the end Logsdon had to hold off the charge of Butler, and Francois Shink was just not quite able to find a way to get too involved there after overheating his tyres towards the end of the race. Mika Hendricks in P4, meanwhile, a further point behind on 43 points, looking to keep with the top 3 with Peter Lowe in P5, and there's a further point to Jason Andrew in P6, who's ahead of John Kroom, Logan McKenzie, Jake Gertson, and Aaron Lahr, who complete your top 10. Outside the top 10, best of SP11 is Milan Harris, with Tanner Dibble P12. They're having a difficult day to kick off his championship campaign, only getting 3 points on the board. We then come to the Prime class. And here we can see it's Ilya Speaker who leads the way by 3 points over Adam J. Ballard. The 2 Rockefeller Racing teammates, albeit we should say sister teammates, in the fact they race for different parts of Rockefeller Racing. We got to see them really lead the way, and whilst they were firm in their battling, they were also fair and decided to cool things down towards the very end, albeit we got to see some fantastic battling in amongst them, and Jay DeVries, who also got involved, finishing P3 in the end in the class on 34 points. Mike J. Young in P4 on 32 points has a 4-point advantage over Charles Hosey, with then Samuel Cran outside the top 5 on 19 points, and really demarking a notable gap in points between himself and the top 5, and the same can be said for Lee Porter, a further 4 behind, with Jermaine Warren, Avon Dorsey and John Lauzon completing your top 10 there. And in Best of SP11, Dominique Ford with Sammy Hendricks not scoring any points in the opening round. We then come on to the AM class, last but not least, and here we can see David Turn, the winner of the AM class last time out, and an unexpected win perhaps on his debut in the middle of the pack Racing League, having qualified well down the order in the AM class, but steering clear of the danger and making sure to keep it calm and consistent. But what we had was a thrilling run to the checkered flag between himself and Kevin Manning, with the two of them being separated by only 3 attempts at the finish line, if that, and Manning pushed as hard as he could, but he couldn't quite find a way to upset Turn's rise to the top, and therefore these two right now definitely in a bit of a rivalry. Mark Senegal P3, there the Sunday GT Turtles drive, delivering and finding his way to the podium once again, with J.R. Davies P4 ahead of Dan Richard, who completed the top 5. Now outside of the top 5 were Braden Melling P6 on 23 points, with Nicholas Feller a further point behind, and then Ian Hennebury, Glenn Bratton and Nick Bader completing your top 10. And then P11 it's Dustin Devois ahead of Tim Chong, Jesse Jamison Jr., Roger Ganesh and James Kingsbury. And keep an eye on the names for between P11 and P15 for the simple reason that these were 5 names who we saw at certain points inside the top 5 when they were raced at Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, but all of them fell out of contention midway through the race due to incidents in amongst other drivers and themselves, and therefore right now we could expect these guys to really bounce back strong today. The same for Stefan Chalafu, P16 now on 10 points, one clear Sam Bernardi, with a Bilman DaCosta, Nick Yakubov and Keith Wilfred completing your standings. Now we come on to the Teams Championship, and as we can see here, it's ATC Gold or Alpha Touring Challenge Gold, as they're known in full, who lead the way by 3 points over Rockefeller Racing Gold. These two teams have taken an early advantage, with Bear Pope behind, a further 6 points behind in P3, and it's 2 points to Reverse Good Racing, with Sunday GT Turtles completing your top 5. Rockefeller Racing Green are on the hunt there in P6, had a Bear Pope 0 with DNA Motorsports, Slipstream Sloths and ATC Silver completed the top 10. And then Bester SP11 a further 3 points behind is Photon Clan, with Rockefeller Racing Red not able to quite emulate the achievements of their sister teams in the opening round. They're in P12 with 35 points, 7 clear of Flavor Station Racing, and then middle of the pack racing over a further point behind in P14 and looking to try and score some big points today. Well, speaking of today then, let's come on to our circuit. It is the Circuit Zolder Grand Prix circuit, located in the region of Logsdon Zolder in the municipality of Limburg in Flanders of Belgium. And this circuit, located in northern Belgium, as we said earlier, it's everybody's second favourite Belgian circuit after the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, which gets most of the attention and publicity. But this circuit in a previous life did host Formula 1 and Blancpain GP, and has recently and continues to host today the NASCAR Whelen Euro series on an annual basis. And as we can see from the circuit map provided by iRacing.com, thank you to them for their brilliant circuit maps that come with the absolutely fantastic simulator. It is a circuit that is made up of hard-hitting chicanes, sweeping corners and short straights. As our drivers make their way around here, they also have to contend with some rather notable elevation change in the second half of the lap, but it all adds together to create a lap which is absolutely relentless, and also at the same time really encourages track position to be the most pivotal part of your performance on the race day. For as our drivers make their way across the start-finish line down towards Erster Corner at turn number 1, they'll go through the sweeping left-hander with a very late apex there and needing to carry as much speed as possible before they head into turn number 2 at Sternwatt-Bocht, and as they make their way through the right-hander, they'll look to get onto the throttle as soon as possible and flat out through Canal Box at turn number 3. Then heading up towards Lucien at Bianchi Box at turn number 4, they'll make their way through the long right-hander there to set themselves up on the run on the longest straight of the circuit as they make their way up towards the Kleiner chicane, turn number 5, and there we could see quite a few drivers end up falling to difficulties over the curbs. We'll have to wait to see how they all negotiate those very high curbs at turn number 5, but get it right, they'll carry the speed up the hill into Butler Corner, the downhill drop into turn number 6, and as they make their way into the braking zone for turn 7, the Slalom Box chicane will await our drivers there, and it's going to be a right-left-right combination which then follows out with an extended right-hander to make the way uphill and downhill into what is turn number 8 there of Boulder Bagage Spielbocht as they make the way through the right-hand hairpin. And then carrying on through Jochen Rinkbot, the small chicane there, which is flat out at turn number 9. They'll head to Jackie Ipok at turn number 10, the third and final major chicane on the circuit to complete the lap and do it all over again. And to talk about the race rules quickly, because we can't go racing without rules, setup-wise, drivers are running a fixed setup as provided by the MPRL officials ahead of each and every round. Car fuel loads have been restricted to 46% for each and every round as well. That gives our drivers just enough fuel to get to the end of the race unscathed on fuel capacity in the sprint race rounds. Qualifying wise, an open qualifying format shall be used lasting 15 minutes. It's split into 2 equal halves as follows. The AM class take to the circuit for the first 7.5 minutes, and then the Prime and the Pro classes jointly take to the circuit for the second half of the session. Sprint race wise, the race shall start under a double foul rolling start with the formation being held up to the green flag. Each driver has 1 fast repair available. And if they've been naughty and picked up 8 or more instant points, we'll see them pick up a drive-through penalty, which they must serve with 3 laps of it being accrued. And should there be a major incident at the race start, a safety car may be deployed at the discretion of the stewards. Otherwise, the safety car shall not be deployed during the race. Indeed, we saw a safety car at Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps for a number of major incidents at the start of the race at Spa-Francorchamps. Hopefully, we won't see a safety car here today. But as we return to our race pictures then, ladies and gents, with all the drivers making their way on around right now in this final practice warm-up session. But one guy who gets the due attention of our cameramen and camerawomen right now is the leading pro driver here, and the man who put it on pole at Spa-Francorchamps and held on to take victory, James Logsdon from Team Bear Pope. And well, his track record so far really has proven in previous middle of the pack racing league series that he is one of those drivers who's always vying for pole position, and he normally does get it what he wants in qualifying. Now, if he do that today, he may just be able to set himself up for major success here, given the fact that this is a circuit, as we've said time and time again, is very track position dependent. Now, as he winds his way on through the Kleiner chicane, you have to keep your eyes on other drivers such as Milan Harris or Rockefeller Racing Gold as he makes his way down here. Currently the fastest driver in this practice session, I should say, but this qualified session. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. And in the number 96 car, currently 2 tenths faster than anybody else out there. And we're right now looking as though he's going for gold today, not just because of his team name, but also in terms of how fast he's going. But outside of the pro class, we also do have a number of primes out there currently, including Adam J. Ballard, our second place prime driver currently in the championship for Rockefeller Racing Green. And he's looking quite strong at the moment, P20. That translates into a P4 in the prime class here. And well, as this practice session now comes towards its end, we've only got about 5 seconds before we begin the transition. We are just going to take a step away, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll be right back in approximately 30 seconds to get qualifying underway. And as we return, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for qualifying, and the AM session kicks off immediately here with 15 minutes on the clock and keeping on 7.5 minutes for each of our classes. But what can we expect in this qualifying session? Well, everybody's got to give it as much as they possibly can today in order to set themselves up well. And let's be honest, it's not impossible to overtake at Circuit Zolder, particularly in these narrow and nimble Radical SR8 machines. If you're racing in GT3s or the Whelen Euro NASCAR machines, then yes, overtaking around here can be extremely difficult, but these Radicals can go too wide through most of the corners around here. However, the flip side of the coin is with the short straights and the sweeping corners and the chicanes, you have to be very bold on the brakes. You can't really gain too much of an advantage in the run to the next corner, and that's why we're saying track position is so key. So what can we expect our drivers to do here to try and qualify well? Well, outside of the perhaps obvious, as the practice is making perfect role in terms of trying to nail each and every lap and making sure they do it on the lowest possible amount of fuel, we also need to expect our drivers to try and use as much slipstream off of each other around here, given the fact that slipstream can make or break a lap by the best part of what we 3 to 4 attempts, and the fact that whilst you don't have too many long straights, you do have a number of short straights. If you are able to run behind another car and gain some time gradually over the lap, particularly in the run out of turn number 4 up towards the Klein chicane at turn number 5, and also the run coming out of Tulaman box at turn number 7 in the run to turn number 8, and also the run here coming out of turn 8 towards turn 10 and onto the start finish straight. If you can add all that together, it can be worth a couple of attempts, and it could be the difference between you qualifying P5 in your class and you qualifying on pole position for your class. And then, well, you've got to play it out in the race, and keep in mind as well that I try to score points based on their overall finishing position come the end of the race, not their class finishing position, albeit there are bonus points available for the podium finishers in the AM and the Pro-Am classes of 3 points for first, 2 points for second, and 1 point for third place. So it all adds together here to make a thrilling combination on the points, and our drivers will know that pole position is going to be critical to that success. But as they make their way around, we're looking at Nicholas Bella right now as he just follows on through, and I think he is chasing another driver as they make their way on through. Couldn't quite catch who that is. I think that might be James Kingsbury just in front of him, in fact, as well as they make their way on through. And in fact, I don't think that is James Kingsbury, just for the simple reason it's one of the Rockefeller racing machines. No, here in fact is James Kingsbury as he makes his way in towards turn number 4 in the very nice yellow livery machine, and as he makes his way on around there, we do have 2 new drivers on the grid today in terms of 2 debutants who weren't in round number 1, and those do include Lucky Chop, who you'll see in the AM class, and also Sean Noble, who you'll see in the Pro-Am class, and welcome to both of them. We are just going to try and see if we can find Chop out on the circuit. Currently he's not out of the circuit as I'm to understand it. We hope to see Lucky out there in the near future, and we will see Sean Noble take to the circuit in the second half of this session, of course, given the fact he is in the Pro-Am category, not in the AM category. As Kingsbury makes his way on through here, looking quite fast at the moment. Remember, he was one of the faster drivers in qualified at Spa-Francorchamps, and really was let down the end by an instant quite early on in the race in Belgium, which cost him very dear. But as he makes his way through turn number 8, first time on the board there from Dustin Devois, a 26.530. He'll be looking to improve upon that. He won a number of laps to do so, given the fact it is a relatively short lap around here, coming in just under 1.5 minutes. So there is time available to our drivers, and as we do see Kingsbury making his way out of turns 9 and 10 towards the line, what's it going to be here for the number 238 driver as he crosses the line? It's going to be P4 so far, 1.3 seconds off a provisional pole, now held by Nicholas Feller. More times continue to come in, and as they do, well, we do look to other drivers making the way on around currently, and here is Samuel Bernardi, and then, well, the Rockefeller Racing red driver and the man to beat last time out in terms of 1 lap pace around Spa-Francorchamps, but right now definitely trying to pick up pieces here as he makes his way into turn number 8. Didn't quite work out in the season opener compared to perhaps what we thought it would be on paper, and as he goes quite deep then to turn number 8, I think really setting himself up for a second lap now. Of course, on his first flying lap, a lot of drivers do use the first flying lap just to get the tyres fully in the zone, and then they go on the full offensive here, as most of our AM drivers have now got lap times on the board. We're going to jump on board with Samuel Bernardi for a lap around the circuit, and as he makes his way to the timeline, this will be his first lap, and he goes on to lap number 2. So bringing the car over to the right hand side and looking at his brake marker, braking about 100 meters from corner apex down to 4th gear as he feeds the throttle back in on the apex curve and keeps the car over to the left out for turn number 2. A long trail braking zone here, braking about 75 meters to the corner apex, and as soon as he clears the apex, bring the car around, feeding the throttle in through turn number 3 flat out up to 4th gear, now heading onto the brakes for turn number 4. Braking at the start of the escape road on the left-hand side, taking a little bit of grass there, unsettling the car, but doesn't cost him any pace as he makes his way through 4, and now down the short straight up towards the Klein chicane at turn number 5. Looks his right-hand side for his brake marker, and braking at about 50 metres to the corner apex, down to 3rd gear, down to 2nd, bounces over the apex curve there, he can get away with that on the right-hand side, as he comes down through Butler at turn number 6, flat out here, keep the car to left, and slam on the anchors here. 125 metres to quarter apex going into Tulama box chicane. Now just feed the throttle in second gear all the way through the secondary right-hander. Now going into the tertiary right-hander, flat out here if you can afford it, as he makes way on through, and he just about does it. A nice run there for Bernardi as he heads in towards the turn 8 hairpin. Onto the brakes here, 100 metres to quarter apex, all the way down the gearbox to the first gear. Goes a little bit deep there, I think carrying a bit more speed here anticipated coming out to Tulama box. And as he makes his way up towards turn number 10, going into the Yokobrink chicane, will now braking hard here, braking about 75 metres to quarter apex, down to second gear, brings it over the right-hander and out. Use the runoff area there in order to help rotate the car and build up speed. And as he heads the line, what's it going to be from Bernardi this time around? It's a fast lap, and it's a 25.055. That's provisional pole there from Bernardi. A fantastic lap, 3/10 faster almost compared to Dewar's time, and Bernardi back on top form. But I think we've already got a response coming from Nicholas Feller, as we do see him making his way on through in the 206 here, coming towards the end of his current lap. And what can Feller do in order to counter-attack here? It might be a shootout between Bernardi and Feller at this rate of knots. He jumps into pole position of 24.707. The lap times are coming through very quickly here, and I think Feller might have been able to do a bit of a tow over that lap as well, whereas Bernardi did not have the tow at any point during his lap, and that's the delta as he makes his way through turn number 2 right now. But the 206 driver putting down a marker and saying whatever Bernardi can do, he can do it as well, as he makes his way into turn number 4. Now 1 minute left in this qualified session. Now, have we still got drivers yet to get a time on the board? We have indeed, as Chong goes P7 out to 26.069, devoted to P8 by Bader, who sets to 26.024. We see Jameson moves up into P4, now drops to P5, Richard moving into P3. So a lot of late times coming in here, but only one driver setting a 24 so far in the AM class, and that's Feller. And Bernardi does have another opportunity to do so as we look to Kevin Manning, who's yet to get a lap on the board, looking to try and do so on his second attempt here. The first one invalidated. As he crossed the line, what's it going to be for Manning? It's P10 there on 26.114. But one thing that's very interesting to note, look at Jameson in P6, all the way down to what is Shalafu in P13. We have got the best part of what is that 8 drivers separated by 8 attempts. It's very close in this AM class in the midfield as Bernardi goes provisional pole again at 24.672. So he responds to Feller. So these cars really come alive at the end of their session when the fuels come out the car, plus also the tyres are up to temperature. And well, right now, can we expect any more late shifts here? We've got Nicholas Feller coming to the line. Can he improve further? He cannot, so therefore he'll stay P2 at best. So this qualifying session just comes to an end there just before he completes the lap, and therefore he'll be required to come into the pits at the end of this lap. Meanwhile, we've got a couple more drivers making the way around, including James Kingsbury, as Kingsbury makes his way to the timeline, brings the car to the right-hand side. I don't think Kingsbury's going to be approved for P13, so difficult qualifying session for the number 238 driver today, as he parks up and makes his way to the pit lane. We then got Chong coming across the line, moves up to P7, does Tim Chong, a nice lap there, moves himself up by a couple of attempts, and ahead of Nick Yakubov, who moves into what is P9 there. And, well, who else is coming towards the end of their lap? We've got Kevin Manning for, I believe that is at the Photon Clay, making his way on down the stretch in towards turns 9 and 10. He makes his way straight on into the pit lane, and well, the pit lane entry there being the braking zone effectively of what is the run into the Yokobrink chicane, and therefore you've got to be careful when you're racing, particularly when there's pit stops involved. But we've not got any pit stops here today. We still do have a couple of AM drivers coming towards the end of their final laps. Can we expect any last minute miracles, as they say? Well, right now Devar looking quite good in terms of improvement from P5 on what is currently a 25.28. Can he potentially jump into the 24s here? We've only got 2 drivers in the 24s, the Amsons, Bernardi and Vella, and then everybody else in the 25s, Richard being the first of the 25s in terms of the lowest. And well, as we see Devar cross the line, he moves to P4, he jumps into Wilfred right at the end, we're 25.144, a nice end to his session. And now, with that, we have got, I do believe, our pros, and Brian starting to make the way onto their first laps, while the last one to come out the pit lane is this man, debutant for today, Sean Noble, and welcome to him on the grid in the 142, and a man after my own heart, because I think you'll all agree, ladies and gentlemen, bringing out there the XJR12 livery from Jaguar, then Le Mans prototype Group C entry, I think dating back to the late 1980s and the early 1990s, the V12 powered Jaguar machine. And well, that livery on the car definitely try to emulate a beast of old as he makes his way across the timeline here. And already has a lap time on the board. I think that might be an error, to be fair, and therefore as he rolls his way through turn 1, his first lap will be now coming up as he goes onto this flyer. But in terms of elsewhere out on circuit, we do have Mika Hendricks here at the top end of what is the second half of the Prime and Pro group. You can see them on the circuit map at the top right corner of your screen. And we do seem to have two groups of drivers out there and a couple of small splits. And I think Jake Gertsen's got it wrong at the chicane, at the Kleiner chicane. Yep, you can see him there trying to turn the car back around. Oh, goodness me. And that was very close to Mika Hendricks in terms of sending Hendricks sideways. But Gertsen in the end having to hold the brakes. It's going to cost a lot of drivers lines. He just simply waits his turn. Not quite able to get the car turned around successfully that time, but this time he'll have a bit more of an opportunity to do so. But you can understand their ways in a rush to try and get it turned around, because he's only got 5 minutes of qualifying left, and he's got to do still about what is 45 seconds of a lap. So it's effectively he only got 4 minutes plus overtime in which to get a lap on the board. But as he makes his way on through to London box, we're starting to see our first pro and prime times coming in. James Logsdon immediately put himself right up there on the low 25 at 25.137, and well, something tells me that right now we could see Logsdon go even faster next time around in the bare poke machine as he charges his way through turn number 3 up towards 4. And well, this is definitely the man right now who's looking for pole position here. Our favourite for pole as he runs quite wide there at turn number 4. Got to be careful that you can put 2 wheels beyond the exit curve into the gravel slightly, but more than that, and the lap will be invalidated immediately as he makes his way on through turn number 5 through the Klein chicane. And as he comes on through, meanwhile in the Pro-Am class, the highest placed driver right now is John Lauzon for AlphaTauri Change Silver. As he comes out of turn number 4, he's got a couple of cars in front and behind, so therefore right in the medley here in terms of picking up a tow and also giving a tow. I think that's Aaron Large just tucked in behind him there in the lime green machine, as we like to refer to it. Lar, of course, a very present driver in the middle of the pack of racing at grid, doesn't matter what series, you can always expect it there. And John Lauzon as well, becoming a firm established individual. We got to see him make his debut in the GR86 Championship, the Cruising USA Championship at the start of this year, and right now back on the grid for even more action. And well, normally been the driver with the worst luck of everybody, and we don't want to put the commentator's curse in, but right now definitely looking as though he's on some good luck today. As meanwhile we do look from him to Dominic Ford, as we do see Ford making the way on down into turn number 5, well, in fact that's into turn number 10 I should say, in the Hot Wheels machine. And coming on through, Milan Harris punches the sky on a 23.810. Good, it's been the pro driver there absolutely nailing a lap time to the top of the standings. More laps due to come in very shortly, but that's the first 23 we've seen, and we did see some 23s in the practice session, Harris being at the top of the board. So right now Milan Harris going all in, as Dominic Ford currently P29, with P6 in the Pro-Am class, is still really trying to find some time out there. But meanwhile, out of our 39 drivers in this qualifying session, we have had Sammy Hendricks, who's still in the pit lane at the moment, who's yet to head out, and Ian Hennery and Lucky Chop in the AM class did not go out. So we are expecting more be 37 qualified times from our drivers, 36 currently registered, as the drivers carry on around here. But meanwhile, we look to our provisional overall and pro pole sitter of Milan Harris, and right now the Rockefeller Racing Gold driver absolutely on point. I think it's going to be hard to shuffle him out of the order as he makes his way down towards turn number 8 as he heads onto the anchors here. Will right now the number 96 driver pushing as hard as he possibly can. He does have, I think that may be just behind him unless I'm very much mistaken, that's James Logsdon following him. I wonder if Logsdon here is deciding to study Harris and see what Harris might be doing differently, and also try to get a little bit of a tow as well, which when it's all put together could give him the opportunity to really strike back. But meanwhile, Logan McKenzie for AlphaTauri Change Gold comes out to the final corners there. Harris improves to 23.796. McKenzie improves to P4 on a 24.548. Well, feels like there's still plenty of time out there to try and improve as he charges through turn number 1. But this is where the car now will feel much lighter, and also the tyres will be up to temperature, and there's been a lot of rubber laid down because we're coming towards the end of the full 15-minute session. And this is where the pros and the primes can absolutely attack the circuit now, right at the end of the session. And that's why they do sometimes really hold everything back in reserve until the final minute when they go onto a lap, and it is make or break on that lap. But of course, if you try to take that approach, which you can save it all for one lap, you do put yourself at risk. If you make one mistake and that lap is invalidated, you could be starting a long way down compared to where you're expected to be, or at least where your pace would say you should be. But as he makes his way on through, we do look to the Australian here at Peter Lowe as he makes his way down through Butler corner at turn number 6 in the Team Bear Poke machine. Very nice livery on the car, and right now P16 overall, P11 in the pro class, and the pro class actually been intermingled quite interestingly in amongst the primes, and also two AMs in particular. And you can see the pair there, P8, P9 on the timing tower on the left hand side of your screen. That's Samuel Bernardi and Nicholas Feller, who in P8, P9 right now are really the fly in the ointment for the pros and the primes who are looking to qualify inside the top 10. Their laps being a world apart from their AM peers, and therefore shaking the order up. And now we can see the top 15 is separated by 1.1 seconds, if that, and that goes to show you how close this field is, even when you remove the class category categorisations from the effect. But as he makes his way out the front of the corner here, Peter Lowe won't be thinking about any of that. He'll be just thinking about going as fast as possible as Logsdon moves to P2, and then it's going to be Lowe who moves to P2, and we'll very shortly have the checker flag out in this qualifying session, ladies and gentlemen. And with that now, our drivers will be going into overtime if they're not already in it. And well, Lowe right now 2/10 of Harris's pole time, so he's the only other driver. In fact, he's yet to set a 23. He was at 24.02 to the nearest 100. All of our drivers now put in their laps on the board. Ilya Speaker goes P15 on a 24.790. John Croom goes at P3 on a 24.124. This is overall. And more drives still coming on through, including, I do believe, Sean Noble coming to the time lane. He's currently P32. He does not improve, so he stays P32. A difficult debut in qualifying for Noble. And as he makes his way on around, well, right now we have got a small contingent of drivers who are out there on their final laps. And here is your provisional pole sitter of Milan Harris. Peter Lowe has gone purple in subsector 1. It should be pointed out, and he's improving in subsector 2. So Lowe could yet spring a surprise right at the end of the session. Harris has improved in the first 2 subsectors. He's had a bit of difficulty in subsector 3, coming to into subsector 4 very shortly, and the final subsector coming up, not improving subsector 4, so now it's all going to come down to the Jochen Ringbox chicane, and whether he can find a way in order to be able to get this done here as he makes his way on out. Will he be able to improve that time from 23.796? He does to a 7.50, so improves by 6 thousandths. Meanwhile, as McKinsey goes P6, Peter Lowe crosses the line. It's a 23, but it's not enough. It's a 23.905, and who else could improve here? Well, Mike Young goes P17 right at the death of the session. He's the last driver to put a lap on the board there on a 24.830, so a nice lap to conclude the session for Mike Young. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it is Milan Harris who takes pole position here today by 1.5 tenths over Peter Lowe. And then meanwhile, outside the Pro class, P9 Pro-Am pole sitter is Adam J. Ballard, and in the Am class it's P13 overall, but pole position for Samuel Bernardi. But he has got Nicholas Vella only 3.5 hundredths off him, and they are joined together on what is the 7th row of the grid. So this qualifying session has definitely delivered here, and now we'll have to wait to see how things play out when we do go green flag racing. But I can tell you one thing, I think this is going to be a thriller, and if you haven't got yourself set and you haven't got a nice bit of liquid cool refreshment right now, you've only got about a minute before we have the green flag. You better go quickly grab that drink. Because as we get ready to transition over to the grid, well, let's take you through how they all line up for today's race. And on pole position in the end, we're 23.752. It's Milan Harris for Rockefeller Racing Gold. Behind him will be Bear Pope Zero's Peter Lowe, who starts P2 on the same row of the grid. And then on row at number 2, it'll be the pro pair of John Croom for Rockefeller Racing Gold and team Bear Pope's James Logsdon. We then have on row number 3 the Canadian of Francois Shink for Alpha Touring Change Silver, joined by the American from Alpha Touring Change Gold. The sister teammate there are that Logan McKinsey, with Tanner Dibble starting P7 for DNA Motorsports, joined on row number 4 in P8 by Aaron Lahr. Then completing the top 10, it will be Jason Landry for Sunday GT Turtles, with Jordan Butler for DNA Motorsports at P10. And then Samuel Bernardi will line up P11 at best of the rest by looks of things for Rockefeller Racing Red ahead of Nicholas Feller. So in fact, we do have, after all the qualifying times are accounted for, and also invalidated laps are accounted for, we have AMS out qualifying the pros here today, and Bernardi and the privateer and Nicholas Feller doing so on that 6th row of the grid. Congratulations to them. On row number 7, it'll be your prime pole sitter of Adam J. Ballard for Rockefeller Racing Green, with a teammate from the gold team of Ilya Speaker alongside P14, so we can expect plenty from them once again today. It's much like round number 1. And on row at number 8, it'll be Mike Young for Reverse Grid Racing, who's joined by Jay DeVries for Reverse Grid Racing, his teammate there started P16. Mika Hendricks lines up on the 9th row of the grid for ATC Gold, it joined by Rockefeller Racing Green's Charles Halsey, with then the top 20 being completed by the Amsterdam Whitchuck, the privateer, just ahead of the Flavour Station Racing driver Dustin Devois. Then on row number 11 it's Jake Gertson for Reverse Grid Racing, with a difficult qualifying session for the American. He's joined on that row by John Nalzon, the Canadian for Alpha Touring Change Silver. And then we have Keith Wilford for Rockefeller Racing at Red, starting P23, joined by Tim Chong for Slipstream Sloths P24. And then on row at number 14 is Stephen Chalafu for the privateer in fact, we've skipped ahead of row there. On row number 13, I should say, is Jesse Jemison Jr. for Photon Klang, who is joined by Nick Yakubov for Slipstream Sloths. And then coming to row at number 14 is Stephen Chalafu, who starts P27, the privateer, joined by Rockefeller Racing's Red J.R. Davies. And then completing the top 30 on row 15, it's Nick Bader, the privateer, and Photon Klang's Dominique Ford. Outside the top 30, starting P31, it's Kevin Manning for Photon Klang and the privateer of Sean Noble. James Kingsbury starting P33 for Flavour Station Racing, and joined by Mark Senegal for Sunday GT Turtles. And on row at number 18, it's Billman DaCosta for Bear Pope 0, joined by Glenn Bratton, the privateer P36. And then on the final full row of the grid, it'll be Sammy Hendricks, the Croatian, for Bear Pope, who's joined by Bear Pope Series in Henneberry, neither of them getting a lap time on the board. And the same for Lucky Chop, who starts last but not least, P39, the privateer, and well, he'll have to try and make up some ground in the race. As all of our drivers get set on the formation lap here, we are only approximately now what will be about 45 seconds from lights out and away we go for our second round of the season. All the field gradually making its way on around here, and as they do, everybody now getting themselves set, as we do see Milan Harris dictating the pace behind the safety car and hanging back quite a bit from the safety car on this formation lap. I think he's quite eager to give himself as much room as possible to breathe and bring the car up to temperature here. And in terms of our conditions for today, you may be wondering as to what the weather's going to be like around here. Well, we can tell you with regards to that weather, we do have an ambient temperature currently of, what is there, 26 degrees centigrade, track temperature 28 degrees centigrade, so it's quite a warm track to be competing on. And those temperatures are only going to rise when we do go into green flag conditions, but definitely right now drivers will be on the offensive immediately and beware of that tyre degradation in the final 10 minutes, which we did see have less of a factor at Spa-Francorchamps, given we only had about 22 minutes of racing in total. And as Milan Harris brings us down into turn number 8, and all the field gradually coming on down. Fantastic to see the whole field together. Well, now they've only got another 2 corners going through turn number 9 and then the last corner of turn number 10 before we get underway. The safety car has already pulled away, and Milan Harris right now will dictate the pace going into the final corner, and as he emerges, he'll take us for 30 minutes of racing here at the Circuit Zolder in Belgium. And it's lights out and away we go for our second race of the season as Harris leads us down to turn number 1. But look at Peter Lowe on the right of your picture. He's on the inside. And as they make the way into the braking zone here, who's it going to be? Will it be Harris or will it be Lowe? It's Peter Lowe who takes the lead. Harris goes a little bit deep. Cars around in the rear of the picture. Car on its roof there. Further back, we've got plenty to take a look back at later on. But as our drivers make the way on through right now, it is Harris who has dropped to P3. Further down the unit, Nicholas Feller getting a good jump. Ilya Speaker jumping up into P6 with all the instants up the road. And as everybody comes on through turn number 4 right now, James Logsdon has made the early gains as they charged away on down the straight here up towards turn number 5, and as they head in towards the next braking zone, where everybody coming on down right now. But it looks though Andre Ballard gaining versus Jason Landry, who's had a bit of a slow start as well, and further back Jake Gertson here battling side by side with Charles Hulsey and makes his way out the inside for reverse grid racing, gains another overall position here and trying to push on as soon as possible. But most of the field right now calming down, and it looks though most of our drivers going into one line formation as they make the way into Tulambot corner. Of course, they keep on racing here despite the incident further back. We believe that incident is in fact cleared, and we're not quite sure if a safety car has been called for it. We'll get an update when our drivers coming through to go on to lap number 2. But right now, it looks like most of the racers are immediately calmed down and everybody into pockets of battling as they make the way in towards turn number 8. And oh, goodness me, going in very deep. There's Charles Hosey and misses braking point, and therefore going to go overly deep versus Jake Gertson. And in the end, just catches the car in time as they make the way on to the final corner here. We look to your race leader, and after one lap racing, it is Peter Lowe who leads ahead of James Logsdon P2, Milan Harris P3, John Croon P4, followed by Aaron Lahr P5, prime leader Ilya Speaker P6, ahead of Nicholas Feller P7, who's your AM leader. Then there's Adam J. Ballard P8, ahead of Jason Andrew P9. Like Jay DeVries P10 and Mick Hendricks P11 at best the rest there. And as all the drivers come through into turn number 1, well, right now we are behind the safety car, ladies and gentlemen, due to that incident earlier on. We're going into the open lap. Unfortunately, we can't give you a replay of the incident due to limitations of conducting the post-round broadcast, in the fact we can't get replays of events that have previously happened in the race. And we can definitely tell you it was a car on its roof, and we believe that car that did end up on its roof may have been the car of what was Tim Chong, unless we're very much mistaken. But thankfully everybody okay, and everybody now getting themselves back up to speed and getting ready to go racing by the sounds of things. The one driver who has lost out, we have had one retirement since the start, that's Logan McKinsey as we're to understand it, but otherwise the only other 2 cars that did not make the way to the grid of 39 was Sean Noble and Ian Henneberry, but otherwise we had 37 starters. Logan McKinsey has retired since then due to that open lap incident, but right now we are behind safety car conditions, and we will be in this manner for the best part of at least 2 laps here behind the automated iRacing safety car. But whilst we do have a little bit of a breather, let's talk a little bit about how many drivers have gained and lost places. And as we can see on the left-hand side of the time tower, there's your top 35. And well, the biggest gainer at the start of this race is none other than Stefan Chalafu, who has gained the best part of 10 places from P27 already up into P17 and up into P3 in the AM class. Chalafu doing a fantastic job off the line as they now find themselves tucked in by Dustin Dubois and could be in with a chance of a podium here in the AM class today. And the Canadian once again showing that sometimes it's all about just being slow and steady, and that's what wins your races, and definitely bringing that to life. Another big gainer, we talked a little bit about him going into turn number 5 on the open lap, was it Jake Gertsen, who's already up 9 places, a good number of those places being overall rather than class, but the point being here, the reverse grid racing driver wasting no time in gaining ground early on in this race as he comes on down there into turn number 8. And we also have had some gains for what is, I do believe, Ilya Speaker. In fact, the best part of 8 places gained from Speaker, and the prime leader right now also being followed by Adam J. Ballard and getting ahead of Ballard into turn number 1, and Ballard in P8 with Nicholas Feller between the two of them. Meanwhile, your biggest losers at the start of this race, well, we do look to the back of the field, and here is one of them in the form of Francois Shink, who started in what was P5 but lost out right at the start of I believe being turned around in the opening corner. And right now the AlphaTauri change of Silver driver, and knowing there's a lot of ground to be made given the fact we will have, once the safety car comes in at the end of the next lap, as we're to understand it, we will have approximately what will be in the region of about 23 minutes of racing, but Shink in fact making the way into the pit lane. Tanner did with following suit as well, so both drivers here with damage to the car, and the car that did roll over on its roof we can confirm was the car of Tim Chong with the slipstream softs, and thankfully okay and into the pits now to take repair work to the car. So as they make the way down pit road, the other driver, the biggest loser of them all, who's still out there on circuit, Samuel Bernardi, having battled for pole position and taken it in the AM class. Bad luck has struck the Rockefeller Racing red driver once again. It's a repeat of what we saw at Circuit Spa-Francorchamps, and right now the 212 driver P24, where he's got a lot of ground to make up, but to be fair, he's got time to do it. I think his goal will be to try and cut his way through the field as quickly as possible, starting with Dominic Ford, and then he has a whole array of what is 7 AM drivers in front. Nick Jakubov, Nick Bader, Jay Davis, Keith Wilfred, Jesse Jamison Jr., Stephen Chalafu and Dustin Dubois. No one to hold the position, but they'll know they'll have the pole man behind them trying to cut his way through as quickly as possible, and will Bernardi waste no time in making overtakes. I can tell you that, ladies and gentlemen, as they make the way on down the first major straight once again here on this second safety car lap. But we do understand that come the end of this lap, the safety car will be peeling in. And as they make the way on down right now, definitely a dramatic start to the proceedings here at Circuit Zolder, but things are now calming down for a moment. I think a lot of our drivers here will just want the safety cars to go on in, and the driver right now who'll be thinking about that restart, because he'll be the one who dictates when we go green flag racing once again, will be Bear Pope Zero's Peter Lowe, and as we said earlier, taking the lead at the very start for Milan Harris, and Harris almost in a way stalling at the start in terms of fact, a bit of a slow start into turn 1, Lowe got up the inside, and then on the outside I think the cold tyres plus that exit curve just unsettling the car, and the Rockefeller Racing gold driver just losing out versus James Logsdon, who managed to sneak his way on through into turn number 2, and was they make the way on through here into turn number 8, all behind the safety car, and you can see the safety car lights are off, so that's our confirmation. Safety car in at the end of this lap, and Peter Lowe will be getting himself ready now. He'll start to let the field back off from the safety car, and that means he gives himself a bit of breathing room here in retrospect of getting ready to go racing. And as all the field gradually come on through, I don't think he's allowed to start the race until, or I should say restart the race, until the safety car has passed the pit entry line, as we are hearing a couple of drivers queuing up very close together in the run down to turn number 8, all getting themselves and come to be set up. But as Peter Lowe makes his way in to the final corner here, going into the Ockenbrink chicane, we're now only one apex away from getting the restart underway, ladies and gentlemen. And when will Lowe go? That's the big question here as he makes his way to the line. Yet to go, he's waiting as late as he possibly can, and as he does so, we are green flag racing once again. Safety car is in, ladies and gentlemen. 23 minutes of racing to go. Peter Lowe under pressure immediately, but looking further back, he's 3 wide there between number drivers, including Nicholas Feller, also Jason Landry, Jay DeVries. Jake Gertsen trying to get to the midst as well, but a good restart at the front of the field. Meanwhile, further down, Jason Landry under pressure here from DeVries, as DeVries looking to try and hold the outside line here, but it looks like DeVries in fact now lose. That's Mika Hendricks and Jake Gertsen are battling side by side here, and Gertsen defending versus Hendricks, the AlphaTauri change gold driver, trying to make his way out the inside, does get the move on DeVries. DeVries goes overly deep, car wide in the rear view picture. I believe that's Mike Young, and as they make the way down towards the corner chicane, it's not over yet. We've got 2 by 2 here as they go into the brace. It'll be Hendricks versus Gertsen. Gertsen on the right, Hendricks on the left, and they make contact. Hendricks Hendricks is forced across the curb, and meanwhile, going his way out the inside will be John Lauzon. A lock up for a driver there as well as they make their way down. In fact, that was Aaron Law going around off camera, off into the wall, and as they make their way down to the alarm box here, onto the brakes they go. Mike Young, and there's been an instant car around, and Mike Young being clipped there, as I believe that's Mika Hendricks, who's had his race all unfold with disaster. The AMs all piling on through the city. It's getting worse and worse as they're all coming in full speed right now, and Keith Wilfred falling victim the same for was Dominique Ford. We've also had the instant effect Tanner Dibble. It's all gone wrong for so many, but where many have fallen, others will rise, and right now Nick Yakubov ahead of James Kingsbury and Dan Victor as they make their way down to turn number 8 here. Onto the brakes they go, and as they do, well, right now it'll be Kingsbury who tries to make a move here around the outside of Yakubov into turn number 10. Kingsbury on the left of your picture in the yellow machine. Yakubov having to lift off there due to a slowdown penalty being accrued for track limits, and as they make their way into a break, Kingsbury moves up into B20 now. Going up through turn number 10, going on to another lap here. We've got a car around in the rear of the picture, and I believe that's Samuel Bernardi who's had a spin, as Tanner Dibble going slow now due to damage picked up or a slowdown penalty, one of the two. But my goodness, the drama continues to flow here at Circuit Zolder, and we're not even 10 minutes into the race. And as they make their way on through, well, whilst everything's kicking off down at the very back end of the field, meanwhile in the upper half of the field, we've also got battles aplenty, as Jake Gertson here still trying to make more progress. He's holding John Lauzon at the moment as they make their way in towards turn number 5. Once again into the corner chicane they go, but Lauzon right there and ready to pounce, and the Pro driver right now pushing the Pro on here and wanting him to get a move on. Meanwhile, Adam J. Ballard by contrast, battling side by side with Jason Landry. That's Landry on the left of your picture as they go into Salam and blocked. He's up the inside, he gets the move done for Landry for P6. Ballard staying behind there, 9. The only Pro driver in front of him is Ilias Vika right now. His sister team drivers, the Rockefeller Racing Green driver, makes his way out to turn 7, down towards turn number 8 they go. But as they do, everything calms down between these guys for a brief moment. Albeit I think Speaker is under some pressure here from what is Landry as they make the way out to turn number 8. You can see just the pressure building now as they charge their way into the final braking zone on this lap, and Landry getting close but not trying to put too much pressure on at this stage. But I think he knows just as much as Speaker that every place gained is worth a number of points, and Speaker there making a ham sandwich of the final corner, and after making that mistake it's going to be side by side between them as they make their way underneath the gantry. And as they do, it is going to be Jason Landry who moves up into P5 there as they charge into turn number 1. As they come roaring on through it, meanwhile your race leaders, the top 3 here very close together, 4 tenths separating Lowe, Harris and Logsdon as they make their way into the right-hander of turn 4. Peter Lowe doing very well to keep them all together at this point in terms of making sure that Harris can't get too far in front of him, but also back him up into Logsdon. But I think very shortly Logsdon's going to have other ideas about this as they make the way into break, and it's been Logsdon versus Harris side by side going up through the climb to chicane there, and as they do, well, Logsdon trying to go outside to inside, can't quite find the mover. Harris gives them the space, have a great respect for racing between these two as they make their way down to the braking zone for the Talan box chicane. As they make their way through right into left, Logsdon backs off, falls back into P3. John Crew now only 1.2 seconds off, so trying to be brought into the mix by teammate Milan Harris as they make their way out to turn number 7. This fight's still building up to a crescendo. Further back, Mike Young making progress. He's found his way past Jay DeVries slightly off camera as a reverse good at racing at blue driver there, making his way on through turn number 7 with Jay DeVries and Charles Horsey just behind. DeVries under pressure now from Wes Horsey as they head on down, and well, the reverse good racing at yellow machine. Oh, goodness me! And I think Horsey just misses braking point and trying to snap the car to the inside, but not doing so in time. Both cars going on around there, a disaster for the pair of them, and DeVries in particular, who's pointing the wrong way and can't resume his racing straight away. And you can understand he may be a bit frustrated from that one, as the rear end of that Radical definitely looking heavily crumpled. But meanwhile, as they make the way back up to speed, we've got Francois Shink here under a bit of pressure from Dan Vitchuk as he tries to go around the outside of Vitchuk and does so in order to get the move at P21. And as they head on out and up towards another lap here, Francois Shink now on the recovery drive. We've got a large number of pros and primes here who are well out of position and trying to find their way back into this race. And well, as they do, they're going to have to pick everybody off one by one, and it definitely means that right now they're having their effort cut out for them in terms of just how many overtakes they're going to have to make this race. But meanwhile, just up the road from Francois Shink, we do have James Kingsbury here being passed up the inside by Tanner Dibble. The DNA Motorsport driver gets it done. Kingsbury leaves the door open. He doesn't want to fight with the pros, he wants to fight with the AMs and make progress, so he's letting the pros lead him through. And as they make their way down towards turn at number 5 here, heading into the chicane. Well, right now Kingsbury under pressure from Vitchuk, and well, out of sorts through turn number 4, understandably letting Shink go. And right now Kingsbury's got to try and get himself back up to speed, because otherwise the Flavour Station racing machine is going under pressure for P6 in the AM class. And as they come down to turn number 7, it looks like things are stabilised, and Vitchuk there behind. Kingsbury goes a bit deep, he just makes a mistake there, carries a bit too much speed, and now has to rejoin very carefully on the exit of the chicane as he brings himself back up to speed, but crumpled rear wing there on the rear left-hand side. I think the suspension suspension may also be shaken by the run over the raised curb of the chicane. So that car's not going to feel very comfortable for Kingsby. He may have to consider coming into the pits. But as he comes through turn number 8, he's going to have to experiment with the car and see if it's okay. But meanwhile, into the wall, that's Tim Chong, who's gone round there, coming out of 8 into 9. The slipstream sloth driver having an absolute nightmare of a day after being sent over onto his roof on the opening lap. Will be able to right the car in the end, but not working out for him. Meanwhile, looking further up the road, Jay Davies here, battling with Kevin Manning. What is their P15 overall? This is for P4 in the AM class currently. Jemison Jr., the best part of 2 seconds up the road and able to gradually break away from these two. But the Rockefeller Racing at red driver right now under pressure to try and make some further progress with Kevin Manning just behind. And Manning here keeping them honest all the way on through as they roar their way up towards turn at number 5. Down the stretch they go. And as they do so, will make their way into the braking zone. These guys right now, all they've got their eye in for what is Jameson a little bit further up the order. But Jameson, in fact, does seem to be gradually breaking away by a 10th a sector as the Photon Clang driver here of Manning tucked in behind Davies, and we're right now not battling for the lead but definitely battling for a top 5. And I think this is what we're going to come to expect from Manning, is the fact that he definitely has top 5 if not top 3 pace under the hood of the Radical SR8. And as he makes his way through turn number 7, we look back up to your very leaders here, and this is Peter Lowe for Bear Pope 0 with Milan Harris and James Logsdon still behind him. And as they make the way onto another lap, going on to lap number 9 under race conditions, nothing much has changed here other than the fact that it does look as though Harris and Logsdon are more and more turning towards each other in terms of battling. Peter Lowe, you can understand the Bear Pope 0 driver, I think, trying to get Logsdon to P2, trying to help him out, and the reason being because of course they're both part of the same team and they'll want their drivers to make it a 1-2 here today. We lose Milan Harris now. Has Harris had a retirement? No, he rematerialises from the internet ether, and as they make the way out of turn number 4, Harris might be a little bit worried right now about his internet connection, and also Logsdon at the same time. We wonder if the car's going to disappear for long periods like that, how much progress can I make? As right now Logsdon has backed off to a degree out of safety, and as they make the way through turn number 5, well, Harris, they're absolutely bouncing over the curve. You can see the car being shaken to the core by the fact he hit those curves so strong and head on. But as they make the way on through, we do look back to John Kroom, who's had a spin at the turn 5 chicane, and as a result has dropped a place now. And in fact, he's dropped 2 places. He's dropped one to Jason Landry in the pro class, and then prime leader Ilya Speaker's coming through. So right now John Kroom finding the difficulties of the turn 5 chicane that have hit so many thus far. And as they make the way into this second half of the race, John Kroom right now under pressure from Adam J. Ballard, who's trying to get close in. I wonder if Kroom is potentially going to have to nurse this car into the pit lane as they make the way down into the braking zone. And behind, John Lauzon looking for a move here versus Nicholas Feller, the AM leader under pressure from the prime driver here from Alpha Touring Change Silver. And Lauzon right now trying to go on the offensive. Meanwhile, Feller there, well, he was looking at the back of Adam J. Ballard, who took plenty of grass going into turn number 10. I think Ballard, for a brief moment, forgetting with the circuit is trying to open up the final corner. You can understand why he wants to try and get a move on John Kroom. He can't quite find it. And as they make the way onto the next lap, we look back to Kevin Manning, who is falling in behind Jordan Butler here, and the DNA Motorsports Pro driver, who has recently in fact passed Manning on this lap. And as they make out the corner, snap oversteer for both of them there. Butler deciding to open the steering and let the car roll to the gravel. Meanwhile, Manning deciding to power through it, but he's going to have Davies here looking for the move into turn 1. Davies too close, can't find the move, instead has to wait. But in terms of going through turn number 1 into turn number 2, well, the idea is he puts the pressure on Manning as we ride on board here with the Rockefeller Racing red driver coming up through the right hand. You can see that Davies able to take a tyre apex curve, and as a result carries a bit too much speed on the exit. Goes wide slightly coming into turn number 3. That will cost him a couple of miles an hour into 4, but thankfully he can make up the time he's lost here if he gets a good run through the corner. But again, not quite happy with the flow of the car. You can see having to make corrective steering on the fly towards the apex. And as they come down towards turn number 5, well, the gap has opened up to Manning to half a second. It was 3 tenths, and as they roll the way through it, Davies again just not happy with the flow of the car right now for this opening half of the lap, and it's buying Manning time, and that's what Manning needs right now to feel safe. But meanwhile, behind them, we've got Dibble versus Shink side by side into Talaman, but they go, and it's going to be Dibble on the outside to inside. Shink makes the move count up the inside on the brakes and says, I'm done, I'm moving on. And Tanner Dibble right now, I think, is going to be shell-shocked to that for the simple reason the DNA Motorsports driver didn't expect the Alpha Touring Change Silver car to come roaring up the inside, but it did, and a great move there from Shink. But now Dibble trying to come back as Shink battles with some oversteer there on power, and as they make the way out of turn number 8 into 9, these cars proving to be very tricky at the best of times as they draw their way into the next braking zone. We've still got plenty of time seconds to go here, and all our drivers will be cognizant of the fact they can't afford any mistakes from now to the very end. So a single mistake can drop you all the way down. But speaking of moves, Milan Harris on the inside there at turn number 4 versus Peter Lowe. It's low on the right of your pitch, and now the left as the camera transitions round, and they're going to be side by side down to turn 5. Harris goes late on the brakes here, tries to go around the outside. It's a brave move, but Milan Harris takes the lead of the race with 13 minutes to go, and as they roar their way down to Butler corner at turn number 6, Harris right now absolutely bold, brazen as you like for battling, and the American roaring his way on past the Australian as he makes his way through turn number 7. Now Lowe and Logsdon will have to think about how do they arrange this, because both of the drivers are from Bearpope, but will they swap places here to give one or the other an opportunity, or will they stay as they are and battle hard? And we would love to see them battle, of course, but I think they need to play this tactically, because if Harris right now is in the zone, and he has been our fastest driver here all day across the 3 sessions so far, then Harris could run away with this little by little as this race heads in towards its final third. And you can see Logsdon right now wants to get this move done as we jump on board with the 42 drive, fighting at the steering wheel there to keep the car pointed in a straight line as they make their way out the final corner. I think he feels as though that whilst Peter Lowe's car says serious business on the back of the wing, I think Logsdon thinks his business is a bit more serious, and it's business for P2 and battling for the win in this race versus Milan Harris as they make their way into turn number 2. But we'll have to wait and see here where we can find a way through, as we do see Lowe goes a little bit deep out of 2, rides the exit curve too high, and that pulls the car wide into 3, but it's not enough for Logsdon to be able to settle up a dive into turn number 4. Instead, he's got to try and get the run out here, but Lowe nails the exit of the corner. Gap stays at 2 tenths here as they make their way down to turn number 5, charging away up the gearboxes, V8 engines roaring out, and as they make their way through turn number 5, right now Logsdon ever close, 2 tenths. You couldn't be closer than this as they make their way down to turn number 6. As they do so, you can see their Lowe just letting the car drift out slightly, signalling to Logsdon, look, don't go for it, I'm going to cover it off. And as they make their way through to Alarm box, it's going to be Logsdon stuck behind him once again here, as Harris is already a second up the road. Harris is running away with the lead right now as they make their way towards turn number 8. But as they hit the brakes here, meanwhile, further down the order, Jake Gertsen versus Adam Ballard here, and this is a P8 position, and Gertsen up the inside into the Alarm box. And as they make their way on through, Gertsen gets the move done. So he's making further progress here, but Gertsen will want to clear all the prime drives before he's done. Keep in mind his next pro rival is John Crim P5, the gap to Crim being 4 seconds as they make their way on through turns 8 and 9. So Gertsen making progress, but it's not enough right now. Meanwhile, new fastest lap of the race, he's been unleashed onto the world, ladies and gentlemen. Milan Harris at 23.590. That was 7 tenths faster than Peter Lowe's lap and James Logsdon's lap by 6 tenths. Harris is flying at the front of the field, and right now just trying to put this race to bed. But as we look here to Gertsen, it's still chasing on down with John Lauzon. A bit further back, we do see Jordan Butler battling side by side with Mike Young. It's going to be Young on the right of your picture. He tucks in behind as Butler goes around the outside as they make their way into turn 1. And even further back still, Tanner Dillon and Mika Hendricks here. 2 drivers who are not strangers to one another. They love racing one another in touring car racing class machines in the official Alpha Touring Challenge Series. And right now racing in Radicals here with Dibble, who's got the upper hand on Hendricks for the time being as they make their way through turn 2 into 3. But as they come on around here, looking further down the order, things have calmed down to an extent, albeit we say that Aaron Law looking up the inside there versus Jay Davies, goes all in under braking into turn 4, and the pro driver clears the AM driver, albeit no elbows required then. But I think Davies deciding, okay, if you're going to commit to it like that, I'm going to open the steering and let you go. And as they make their way down into the brakings over the Kleiner chicane, they both carry on as they presume to resume so. Covering the way over the rise now down into turn number 6 here. Everybody right now knowing we're coming into the critical part of the race. The final 9 minutes for that tyre life will now start to become the bigger question for our drivers. And we look back to the battle for P2 here between Peter Lowe and James Logsdon. And as you can see, for Lowe right now, he is under huge pressure. Lowe is being pushed left, right and centre by Logsdon as Logsdon stays with him going through turn number 1 here. But the problem for Logsdon is the fact he can stay as close as he likes, but if he can't find a way to get that gap below at 2 tenths, I don't think he's going to be able to find a move unless he really goes all in on the brakes into corner. You can see there's just a little element of oversteer coming out too. I think Logsdon right now having to drive his car on the absolute limit to stay this close, and the dirty air coming off the back of Lowe will not be helping him there. These cars quite aerodynamic dependent, and as they make their way down towards turn number 5, the problem is the more he pushes and the more of this dirty air he sucks in, Logsdon will be feeling it on the front tyres in particular. He'll start to lose that front turning, and when he does so, that means the car will now start to become very understeer heavy in terms of entry on the corners, and coming out of the corners he'll want to compensate with the extra steering lock. That's an actual thing you want to do when the car understeers. You want to apply more steering, but you need to avoid doing so, because when he gets the power down, all that power goes to the rear wheels, and suddenly the car will snap from understeer to oversteer immediately, and that's going to make it an even harder beast to tame. but as he makes way down into turn 8, no way through at the moment. But meanwhile, we look back to Mika Hendricks here, who has recently been passed by Jesse Jameson Jr. And Jr. right now pushing on as they make the way down in towards turn number 7. Hendricks being made to wait here, taking the dibble under pressure. We'll try to put pressure on Francois Shink, it would seem, as they come through with turn number 7. In fact, we can confirm there was Tanner Dibble who found his way past Jameson Jr., not Hendricks being passed by Jameson Jr. In fact, Hendricks now trying to put the pressure on as they make the way in towards turn number 8. But these guys are staying as they were for a brief moment as they roll their way through the hairpin, although I say that Hendricks almost following through with Jameson there. Jameson going quite deep and then not close enough to really capitalise on the small error from the AM driver as they make the way up towards turn number 10. As they charge their way towards the end of that, they make the way down to lap number 15 under race conditions, and as they do, well, right now Hendricks, I think, will be very eager to try and cut his way through on the inside here. He is within 2 tenths, but just not close enough to be able to make the move. You can see Dibble and Shink close together just in front, and then from them we look to the battle for what is P2. Well, in fact, not P2 in the AM class here. Here's your second place AM driver. He's 4 seconds down the AM leader. This is Dustin Dewar, the Flavour Station Racing driver, who's got Jordan Butler for company in the battle to be best of the rest outside the top 10. This is a P11 overall, and as they make them through, well, there is fella at the bottom of your picture. He's just gone underneath our cameraman's angle, but they head on down towards the braking zone here. Butler thinks about it, but the DNA Motorsport driver does not fully commit to the move. No, it's a bit too far back, and I think Dewar will not be expecting it to come. And as they make the way into turn number 6, you can see Dewar here leaving the door open, coming downhill. Dewar here playing for P2. He doesn't want to engage in overall race position anymore. And I think with the damage he's got on the car, this is a sensible move from the 272 driver. He wants the points first rather than the mistakes that could potentially come with fighting. But as he makes his way on through, we look back to your pro-am leader now, back up in P6, Rockefeller Racing Gold, Ilya Spiga. He has got John Lauzon for company, and as they make the way in to the final corner this time, still 6 minutes on the clock, we've got a fight on our hands for the pro-am win here, ladies and gentlemen. The battle for P6 rages on, and as we jump on board here with John Lauzon, the Canadian, the AlphaTauri change Silver staying ever close as they make the way in towards turn number 1. Onto the brakes they go, and Will Flame spitting off the rear of these radical machines as they downshift through the gearbox and head in towards turn number 2. And Speaker doing everything right currently in order to hold on. You can see Lauzon experiencing the same difficulties that Logsdon is behind Peter Lowe up the road in the pro class, in the fact that once you get within 3 to 4 tenths, you've got to try and push through this wall of dirty air at a circuit that doesn't give you natural opportunities just to gain the toe. And that's exactly what Lauzon now will find. The more and more he spends time in this dirty air, he will be stuck there, and the pace will gradually be whittled and chiseled out of the car. In terms of tyre life, will start to be threatened by warm front tyre temperatures, and in general the car will be prone to more and more understeer and snap over steel corner exit. But as they make the way through to Bot, you can see staying nice and close here, really managing the run through the chicane. But it is Speaker right now who holds the authority, that track position being critical as they roll the way off the corner. Nick Yakubov on the right hand side of your picture there, a lap down, letting them both go as they make the way into turn number 8 on the inside. Well, I think it's going to be Lauzon has to be a bit careful as he turns on in, with the fact in the end they managed to dodge one another. But as they make the way on through, meanwhile, we do look a bit further back here to drivers who are almost a lap down on the leaders, including Glenn Bratton, the privateer, and he's recently passed what is Mark Senegal, and Nick Bader's found his way past Bratton over the last couple of laps. So right now it is Bratton P31 ahead of Nick, well, behind Nick Bader P30 as the privateer makes way through. You can see the damage on these cars. They picked up damage in those instants on the opening lap and also on the restart lap, where a good number of drivers unsettled, and Bader's car, they're shaking from side to side on the braking, and I think that rear end definitely compromised in terms of stability under the braking effects into those heavier braking zones. As he makes his way around, Bratton trying to carry us back up. In fact, that gap opened up by a couple attempts a lap as they roar their way on through to London box. And meanwhile, we look up the road in the AM class to Dan Vitchuk. I mean, P5 and P20 overall has Kieran Manning behind, and Manning right now trying to keep him as close and honest as possible as they make the way on through what is turn number 1 into turn number 2. We can give you an update on the battle with the prime lead as well, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, we are going to cut away and back to that. In the fact, a poor run through the Kleiner chicane has seen Ilya Speaker drop to P2, and John Lauzon is now your prime leader for AlphaTauri change Silver, and the Canadian driver right now pushing on. Speaker's still there right behind, but from what we're hearing, it was just a mistake on the braking for Speaker. Went a bit too deep into the chicane and had to just let the place go. But as they come down through turn number 8, Speaker now will be feeling the taste of his own medicine in terms of the amount of dirty air being distributed to the front of his car for John Lauzon. And can he find a way to break through that wall of dirty air? That will be the change that confronts him. As meanwhile, in that battle for P2 in the pro class and overall between Peter Lowe and James Logsdon, we can tell you that gap has opened up to 6 tenths. I think Logsdon has run out of tyre in order to try and break down the dirty wall barrier. But as they make the way in towards turn number 1. Well, right now, Logsdon holding that gap nicely at half a second. Meanwhile, behind, we do look back to Jordan Butler. We're trying to look for a move here up the inside. Nicholas Feller, your AM leader, and Butler really thinking about it here. Gets Feller to go deep, thinking the move's going to come very late in the day. A nice feint there from Butler. Can he go around the outside into 2? Or would he go for the cutback? In fact, it's a cutback first rather than the outside there, because the corner does taper on exit. And as they make the way through 3, Butler can't quite get the job done, but he's not afraid to throw risks at this in terms of the fact trying to get into Feller's head and trying to run offline for a good portion of the run into the braking zone. Of course, Butler's got to be careful, because if he misses braking zone even by a metre or 2, the car is going to very quickly head towards the apex. It's not going to be as easy to slow down, but right now Jordan Butler really trying to get to Feller's head, but Feller just not having enough of it in terms of the fact he does not want to be unsettled and keeping his head down as they make the way into turn 7 here. We're going through right into left, 2 minutes remain on the clock now as Feller under that pressure still, and from them Peter Lowe is being caught up again by James Logsdon at the very front of the field. We're getting the Tim Chongs into the pit lane with damage to the car as we understand it, and with some further moves being made further down the order, including what is here Manning being passed by Mika Hendricks for P22, and that's Stephen Chalafu right behind Manning as they make the way on through the corner. Manning goes a bit deep, he's got to try and collect the car together. He does so just in time that Chalafu will be equal. In fact, that's Keith Wilfred there. We apologise, before it was Stephen Chalafu at first, but no, that's Keith Wilfred who is a lap down, and with the blue flags waving, I think he's going to try and unlap himself here. In fact, no, he backs off by going onto the inside in the braking zone, but Kevin Manning right now will be grateful for the security net and the fact that's not Chalafu behind, and therefore he's not going to be at risk of losing another overall position unless he makes a mistake before the end of this race. But meanwhile, as they make the way in to another lap further down the order, we're in that Stephen Chalafu has recently made his way on past Mika. In fact, Mika Hendricks has got ahead of Stephen Chalafu, we should say, and I think the two in fact have had a little bit of exchange here. Chalafu now moves up at a P22 ahead of Hendricks. I think Hendricks missed his braking point for turn number 10, but as they head on down into another lap, going on to lap number 19. Meanwhile, we look back to Peter Lowe versus James Logsdon, and well, they've got plenty of traffic on the inside there, negotiated traffic that's also fighting one another. That's Nick Bader versus Glenn Bratton, who are a lap down in the AM class, but Peter Lowe just about holding on there as they went 3 wide into turn number 8. Final lap of this race is coming up very shortly. We will get 20 laps here today as Milan Harris goes across the line now to take the white flag, but as they make the way on through, Peter Lowe under sensational pressure here from James Logsdon as they head into this lap, and can Logsdon find a way to come on through? Remember that Logsdon has been here for a long time. He backed off for a multitude of laps in order to calm the car down and get himself into the zone. It's bought Peter Lowe some time to calm down as well, but now Logsdon will throw everything at this in terms of trying to take one further step on the podium. But will it be Lowe or will it be Logsdon who are the runners up, with Milan Harris 2.6 seconds up the road and just running away with proceedings? We'll have to wait and see, as meanwhile Francois Shink battling side by side here with Mike Young. Young, the reverse grid racing driver, on the inside into turn 1. Shink on the left pitch on the outside. As they enter the brakes, Young's not going to give up on this. They run their way in, and well, Young doing very well to defend there, but Shink now has the inside into 2, and he can really force the brake in. It's a long braking zone. He can just simply say to Young, okay, you're going to be elbowed out, and Shink now having to collect the car back together before the oversteer kicks in, but gets the move done. It's a nice move for P14, and Aaron Lahr now looks up the inside, and once you're offline through turns 2 and 3, you're offline for turn 4 as well, and Mike Young there feeding the pinch as the two pros make the way on through, and upwards towards turn number 5 they go. Can Young come back? I don't think so at this point. He's close, but not close enough as they saw their way through the client chicane. Young's going to think about it, but he's not close enough to do so. But meanwhile, ladies and gentlemen, we look to the man who's been on top form all day today. He makes his way out the final corner, and for Rockefeller Racing Gold, he will take his first win of the season. Milan Harris is your overall and pro winner here today, ahead of Peter Lowe, P2 ahead of James Logsdon, and then it will be Jason Landry who comes on home P4 ahead of John Croom P5. John Logsdon will be coming on through very shortly with Elliott Speaker in tow, but the bad luck ends here, ladies and gentlemen, for Albatron Challenge Silver. John Logsdon takes his first win of the season as he crosses the line P6 and winner in the Pro class ahead of Elliott Speaker P7, and it'll be Jake Gertson at P8 ahead of Adam J. Ballard P9. Jordan Butler comes on through to complete the overall top 10 ahead of Nicholas Feller, who takes his first AM win in his MPRL career. Nice work there from the American driver ahead of Dustin DeWitt P12, and it is Tanner Dibble P13 ahead of Francois Shink. With Aaron Lart and Mike Young through to P16. Jesse Jameson Jr. P17 ahead of Jay Davies P18. Charles Halsey holds on to P19 in the end ahead of Dan Mitchell, with Kevin Manning P21 as he crosses the line. And then it will be shortly after with Stefan Chalafeu followed up by Sammy Hendricks, as we do see the Barefoot drive cross line P23 ahead of Mika Hendricks. Samuel Bernardi P25 when all is said and done ahead of Jay DeVries. And then it will be James Kingsbury who will be our final driver to finish on the lead lap here. He'll be our 27th place finisher for Flavour Station Racing, and what a difficult race it has been for the 238 driver as he crosses the line there, P27. But as he makes his way on this cool down lap, this man right now as he comes around once again on his first cool-down lap, and I think he's going to go for some donuts, alternatively go for a second cool-down lap. I don't think you can quite believe it, ladies and gentlemen. He's been unstoppable, and on top of that as well, he has set the fastest lap of the race, and he set it early on with 23.59, and we were wondering whether he was being held up by battling behind Peter Lowe and James Logsdon, and we got the confirmation as soon as he was released. He was brought onto the world, and nobody could stop him. But as John Lauzon makes his way down to turn 8, I would not be surprised if it's a very emotional moment in the car for the 177 driver, with the bad luck that has plagued him for so long over the course of multiple seasons. That bad luck has finally gone away, and today John Lauzon, despite the pressure inserted on him by Ilya Speaker, well, it's John Lauzon's day to shine as he comes on home into the pit lane. And for Nicholas Feller as well, a great performance from the privateer in the 206, and indeed demonstrating the fact that he was always going to look strong here given the practice time and qualifying, just missing out on pole behind Samuel Bernardi. But when it all went wrong for Bernardi at the start of the race, for Feller it all went right, and despite some pressure being exerted on him by the pros and primes, never fell into the risk zone versus Dustin Devois. And credit where it's due to Dustin Devois, another podium run in the AM class, a great drive there and making that podium count this time around, and Devois definitely showing the pace he's bringing to the table. But goodness me, ladies and gentlemen, a thrilling race from start to finish, and the only thing for us to now do is take you through those race results, and here they are. So after an absolutely thrilling 30 minutes of racing there at everybody's second favourite circuit in Belgium, known as Circuit Zolder, in the Radical Eurotrip Championship 2023, as brought to you on iRacing and by Middle of the Pack Racing League, Milan Harris taking the win there overall for Rockefeller, racing at gold by 2.8 seconds over Bear Pope Zero's Peter Lowe. Peter Lowe in return managed to hold off sister team driver from Bear Pope James at Logsdon to line, the two of them being separated in the end by only 2 attempts. Fantastic battling between them. We're expecting plenty more. And then Jason Landry at P4 for Sunday GT Turtles, and a very quiet race for Jason Landry. After he moved into P4, there was nothing really else to the race, and I think the Sunday GT Turtles driver may have been a bit frustrated there not to really be closing on the top 3, and brought the gap down to 4.5 seconds the end, but wasn't quite in at the run today for that podium. John Crew in P5 for Rockefeller Racing Gold, another solid performance there ahead of your prime winner John Lauzon for AlphaTauri Change Silver, and a superb return to form for the 177 driver ahead of prime run-up Ilya Speaker in the 106 for Rockefeller Racing Gold. And Jake Gertsen at P8 for Reverse Grid Racing. A challenging start today, qualifying a long way down for Jake Gertsen, but in the end, finding his way into the top 10. Some good points accrued there for the number 16 driver, and he splits up the prime podium, with the final podium finisher in the prime class being Adam J. Ballard there for Rockefeller Racing Green, who completes the prime podium of Lauzon, Speaker and Ballard. Top 10 completed there by Jordan Butler for DNA Motorsports, and he was only the best part of 3 attempts ahead of Nicholas Feller, your AM class winner here today, the privateer. And a great result for Feller, and we expect plenty more now from him going into the next round. And Dustin Devois once again showing that consistency is key for Flavour Station Racing, finishing 2 seconds behind Feller, but most importantly for him, making himself a arrival on the podium, and one that was well and truly deserved. Tanner Dibble P13 for DNA Motorsports ahead of Francois Shink, with Aaron Lart P15 there, and Mike Young just outside the top 15, but great racing for Mike Young today, battling everybody who came on through and able to keep a couple of drivers behind him, including Jesse Jameson Jr., with the Fotan Clang driver there, finishing at P3 in the AM class and making it a and podium was Feller, Devois and also Jameson Jr. P18 for Jay Davies, and the Rockefeller Racing Red driver just missing out in the end in terms of an AM podium, but still he'll be very pleased with the fact he was P4 in the AM class, and then Charles Halsey and Dan Vitchett completing your top 20. P21 for Kevin Manning, the Fotan Clang driver, having a great start to the race, albeit losing pace as time went on. I think just having to look at potentially that tyre preservation later on in the race for next round. With Stefan Shalafud the same there, the privateer, just not quite able to hold on to the pace in the long haul. And then Sammy Hendricks, P23, after starting from the very back of the field, will be pleased with that. The Bearpoke driver, ahead of Samuel Bernardi and Jay DeVries, who completed your top 25. James Kingsbury and Mika Hendricks completed your finishers on the lead lap through to P27 for Alpha Touring Change Gold there for Hendricks. And then finishing a lap down, but will still be classified as a race finisher. Billman DaCosta, Nick Bader and Glenn Bratton, who completed your top 30. Mark Senegal, P31, Keith Wilfred and Tim Chong. Finishing 5 laps down, Nick Yakubov, who I believe will be considered your last finisher of the race, given the fact our drivers must finish within at least 5 laps of the winner in order to be classified as a finisher of a given race in this series. And the Slipstream Sloth driver just creeping on through there. And then we did have our retirements in the following order of Dominique Ford, who retired what was in the end 17 laps from the end, so after lap number 3. Lucky Chop, who in the end retired only 2 laps into the race. Logan McKenzie with that early retirement as well after 1 lap, and then not able to make it to the grid today in Hennebury, and Sean Noble. And well, commiserations to them, and hopefully we'll see them on the grid next week and having a more successful round of racing. But then we come on to the individual class classifications here, and as we can see in the pro class, Milan Harris taking the win for Rockefeller Racing Gold, 2.8 seconds clear of Bearpoke Zeros at Peter Lowe and James Logsdon completing that pro podium, and a fantastic podium there. Well done to all 3 of them, all well deserved. And then Jason Landry P4 ahead of John Kroon. Joey Gertson missing out in the top 5 there, but P60 class ahead of Jordan Butler, with Tanner Dibble, Francois Shink and Aaron Lahr completing the top 10. And well, to be fair to Jordan Butler, Tanner Dibble, Francois Shink and Aaron Lahr, all 4 drivers there feeling the victims of the opening lap incident, having to fight the way through, and in the end battling with one another just as much as they battled with their prime and AM peers. P11 best the rest there, Mika Hendricks, the Alpha Touring Change Gold driver, really summarising what has been a difficult day for the gold outfit of ATC, with Logan McKenzie being the sole pro retiree. And then coming on to the Pro-Am class. And as we can see here, John Lauzon, your winner by 3/10 in the end for ATC Silver over Rockefeller Racing Gold's Ilya Speaker, with Rockefeller Racing Green making it a 2-3 on the podium there as a whole for Rockefeller Racing, with Adam J. Ballard completing the podium. And then a further, we're 9 seconds behind when we do the mathematics, to Mike Young and the Reverse Good Racing driver there, doing a fantastic job to finish in that P4 position ahead of Charles Halsey. The Rockefeller Racing Green driver round off the top 5 there ahead of Sammy Hendricks, with Jay DeVries completing your pro finishers, who'll be classified as finishers. And we had 2 pro and retirees of what is Dominique Ford and Sean Noble. And then coming on to the AM class, last but not least. As we can see here, confirmation Nicholas Feller being your winner by 1.4 seconds to privateer over Dustin Duval, the Flavour Station Racing driver, and then Fotan Clan, I should say, of Jesse Jamison Jr. rounding off the podium. A further 7 seconds to Jay Davies, the Rockefeller Racing Red driver, who held on ahead of Dan Vitchuk. The privateer round off the AM top 5, and another great result for the 213 driver. And then Kevin Manning, Fotan Clan's P6 driver there, ahead of Stefan Chalafu, with Samuel Bernardi, James Kingsbury and Billman DaCosta completing the top 10. And credit where due to Samuel Bernardi after that open lap instance, throwing for a long way down the order. Indeed, a further mistake cost him in the mid portion of the race, still recovering to P8 in the class. He won't be too pleased about it, but he'll take some points and know there's still plenty of racing to come. Billman DaCosta in P10 finished a lap down, and the rest of the drivers in this order finished a lap or more down. Best of rest P11, Nick Bader ahead of Glenn Bratton, Mark Senegal and Keith Wilfred, who completed P14, Tim Chong P15, and then finishing 5 laps down, Nick Yakubov there P16, and then Lucky Chop and Ian Hennebury completing your standings there in the AM class. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that rounds up our racing here today at the Circuit Zolder, and it does mean it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's broadcast and perhaps you want to know more about the Middle of the Pack Racing League community as a result, perhaps you're sat there right now thinking that you want to be on the grid for this series if a place does open up. Alternatively, you want to potentially be on the grid for what lies ahead in the remainder of 2023 going into 2024. Well, to find out all about that and plenty more, the best place to go to is the MPRL Discord, link available on screen there. Or if you're not really a Discord user, or perhaps you're not ready to jump into the official Discord, you can follow us on social media at our official Twitter page. That is at twitter.com/MOP Racing. We can keep up to date with all the latest news at Middle of the Pack Racing League, as well as the performances of the official Middle of the Pack Racing esports teams. But now, ladies and gentlemen, our drivers will be looking ahead to round number 3, and as we make our way to United Kingdom for the one and only Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit in the county of Kent. And the broadcast will be brought to you on Thursday, the 21st of September 2023, the day after the race plays out. And after 2 rounds of racing in Belgium, we have seen that right now it's all up in the air between our drivers. We have had different winners in each and every class, in each and every race. Will we continue that trend in round number 3, or will we start to see some favourites emerge early on? Well, all that and more we'll find out at Brands Hatch. But until then, thank you very much for watching. We have been Middle of the Pack Racing League. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.